heart of the city, nestled amidst a maze of towering buildings, lay an inconspicuous apartment complex. Its name, the Hollow Ridge Apartments, had an eerie ring to it that the residents often laughed off as mere coincidence. Yet, there was nothing ordinary about Apartment 7's. Sophie, a young woman with dreams of becoming a lawyer, had just moved into Apartment 7's. The previous tenant, a reclusive man named Mr. Thompson, had passed away suddenly. The landlord, Mr. Thompson, Jennings, had mentioned the unfortunate death, but brushed it off as natural causes. Sophie, eager to start her new life, had been too busy to dwell on the details. The first few weeks in Apartment 7's were uneventful, save for the occasional creaks and groans of an old building. However, as Sophie settled into her routine, she began to notice strange occurrences, muffled whispers in the dead of night, shadows that seemed to move independently, and an inexplicable chill that hung in the air. One evening, as Sophie was reading a legal textbook, she heard a voice, faint but distinct, coming from the hallway. "Sophie, help me." Startled, she rose from her chair and peered into the dimly lit hallway. It was empty. She shook her head, attributing the voice to exhaustion and stress. But as the days passed, the voice grew louder, more insistent. Sophie confided in her neighbor, Lisa, a friendly woman with a penchant for the supernatural. Lisa listened intently, her eyes wide with fascination. "You know," she said, "this building has a dark history. They say that Apartment 7's cursed." Sophie scoffed at the notion of curses. "Lisa, I need a logical explanation, not superstitions." Lisa nodded sympathetically, but couldn't resist sharing a tale she had heard. "There was a man, Mr. Thompson, who lived in your apartment before you. They say he dabbled in the occult, summoned things from beyond. Maybe, just maybe, he left something behind." Sophie was skeptical, but growing desperate for answers. She invited Lisa over one evening to investigate, armed with candles. They sat in the dimly lit living room, their breaths hanging in the cold air. Sophie called out, "If there's anyone or anything here, give us a sign." Suddenly, the temperature dropped drastically. The candles flickered wildly, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Then, in a voice that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once, they heard it again. "Sophie, help me." Terror coursed through their veins as a sinister presence seemed to materialize in the room. Furniture rattled, and the walls pulsated with an otherworldly energy. Lisa screamed, and Sophie fled to the hallway, the malevolent force pursuing her. Desperate, Sophie sought the help of a paranormal investigator named Dr. Blackwell. He arrived with a bag of esoteric tools and a calm demeanor that reassured Sophie, at least temporarily. Dr. Blackwell conducted a thorough investigation of Apartment 7's, his equipment registering abnormal readings. He revealed the apartment's chilling history. Mr. Thompson had indeed been involved in the occult and had conducted sinister rituals within those very walls. As night descended, Sophie and Dr. Blackwell sat in the living room once more, determined to confront the entity. Sophie asked, "Who are you? What do you want?" The room seemed to inhale, and the voice that echoed was not one, but a chorus of tormented souls. "We are trapped, Sophie. We need your help to find peace." Dr. Blackwell performed a complex ritual, attempting to communicate with the entity and offer a path to release. The room shook, and a blinding light enveloped them. For a moment, they glimpsed the tortured faces of the spirits, their anguish etched in their features. With a final deafening scream, the entity vanished, Leaving apartment 7's in eerie silence, Sophie was drained, physically and emotionally, but she had succeeded in freeing the trapped souls. In the aftermath, Sophie decided to leave the apartment, unable to bear the weight of its dark history any longer. She moved on with her life, forever marked by the horrors of apartment 7's, a place where the living and the dead had intertwined in a chilling tale of the supernatural. And as the years passed, the legend of apartment 7's lived on, a cautionary tale passed down from one tenant to the next in the Hollow Ridge Apartments. In the heart of the bustling city, nestled within a nondescript building, there existed a sinister tale that would send shivers down the bravest souls. Apartment 9's had long been a place of dread, and its dark secrets were known to few. Meet Emma, a young woman with dreams of success in the city, but never slept. She was a budding journalist who had just landed her first job. The apartment seemed like a perfect fit, affordable and conveniently located. Her excitement blinded her to the warnings she received from the building's other tenants. One evening, Emma invited her friend Daniel over for dinner. The aroma of her cooking filled the apartment as they chatted and laughed. But as the night wore on, strange things began to happen. The lights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls, and the temperature in the room plummeted. Daniel, unnerved by the sudden changes, exclaimed, "Emma, are you sure this place isn't haunted?" Emma laughed nervously, dismissing his fears. "Come on, Daniel. You don't believe in ghosts, do you?" Before he could respond, they heard a chilling whisper in the air, barely audible, yet unmistakably sinister. "Get out while you still can." Their blood ran cold as they stared at each other in disbelief. The whisper was neither human nor natural, and the room seemed to pulse with an unseen presence. Emma's resolve wavered, and she finally conceded. "Okay, maybe we should leave." As they hurried towards the door, the lights returned to normal, and the whispers ceased. But the fear lingered, casting a pall over their friendship. Emma couldn't ignore the bizarre occurrences any longer. She decided to investigate the history of apartment 9's. What she uncovered sent chills down her spine. A string of tenants who had mysteriously disappeared over the years, leaving behind only a sense of dread. Among the missing tenants, one name stood out: Harrison Blackwood. He had lived in apartment 9's a decade ago, and his sudden vanishing had never been explained. His story was shrouded in mystery, and it sent shivers down Emma's spine. Haunted by the sinister history of her apartment, Emma reached out to a renowned paranormal investigator, Dr. Isabella Rivers, who specialized in cases of unexplained phenomena. Dr. Rivers arrived with a wealth of equipment and a steely determination to unravel the enigma. They spent countless nights in the apartment, documenting strange occurrences and conducting experiments to communicate with the entity that dwelled within. Yet the malevolent force remained elusive, its presence felt, but never seen. One fateful night, as they sat in the dimly lit living room, a ghastly apparition materialized before them. A spectral figure with hollow eyes and a twisted, malicious grin. The room grew frigid, and the apparition whispered, "You should have left when you had the chance." Terrified, Emma and Dr. Rivers fled the apartment, their investigation yielding no answers, but only deepening the mystery. Emma couldn't endure the horrors of apartment 9's any longer. She moved out, leaving behind the eerie memories that haunted her. The apartment remained vacant, its dark secrets locked within its walls. As the years passed, apartment 9's continued to change tenants, each experiencing their own brand of terror. It stood as a chilling reminder of the malevolent force that dwelled within, a force that refused to let go. The apartment became an urban legend, a place where the line between the living and the dead blurred, leaving all who dared to enter with a feeling of dread that would never fade. And so, the story of Apartment Nights, with its sinister whispers and malevolent presence, became a true horror tale passed down through the generations, a haunting mystery that would never be solved. In a quiet corner of the city, nestled away from the bustling streets and bright lights, there stood a seemingly ordinary apartment building. But within the walls of Apartment 7, a chilling tale unfolded, one that would haunt the memories of all who crossed its threshold. Samantha, a young woman in her mid-20s, had recently moved to the city in pursuit of her dream job in marketing. She was thrilled to find an affordable, cozy apartment in the aging building. Her excitement was palpable as she unpacked her belongings, unaware of the darkness that lurked within her new home. One rainy evening, Samantha decided to invite her coworker, Mark, over for dinner. They shared stories and laughter. The atmosphere in the apartment warm and inviting, but as the night wore on, the mood shifted. The lights dimmed, and a cold, clammy breeze swept through the room. Mark, his voice shaky, broke the silence. Samantha, have you ever heard of this place being haunted? Samantha chuckled nervously, dismissing the idea. Haunted? Come on, Mark. You don't believe in that stuff, do you? Before he could respond, a whisper filled the room, low and sinister. Leave now, while you still can. Fear gripped them both as they stared at each other in disbelief. The whisper seemed to emanate from the very walls, and the room pulsated with an eerie energy. Samantha finally relented, her voice trembling. Maybe we should go. As they rushed toward the door, the lights returned to normal, and the whispers subsided. But the sense of dread remained, lingering like an unshakable shadow, unable to ignore the unsettling occurrences any longer. Samantha delved into the history of Apartment 7. She discovered a disturbing pattern. Tenant after tenant had experienced strange phenomena and abruptly moved out, leaving behind only a trail of unanswered questions. One name, however, stood out in Samantha's research. Eleanor Graves. She had occupied Apartment 7 years ago and was the first to report the paranormal activity. Her account of the haunting was detailed and filled with terror. Eleanor claimed to have witnessed a spectral figure in the dead of night, a gaunt woman with hollow eyes and a sorrowful expression. This apparition would glide through the apartment, whispering chilling warnings to leave the place before it was too late. Samantha's curiosity and dread led her to seek the expertise of a renowned paranormal investigator, Professor James Ashcroft. Armed with an arsenal of ghost hunting equipment, he arrived at Apartment 7 with a grim determination to uncover the truth. Nights turned into weeks as Samantha and Professor Ashcroft conducted experiments and recorded the unexplained phenomena. The apartment seemed to come alive with an unsettling energy during their investigations, but the entity remained elusive, its presence felt but never seen. One fateful evening, as they sat in the dimly lit living room, a sinister force seized control. Objects levitated in midair, and the temperature dropped to bone. Chilling lows, the room vibrated with an eerie resonance, and the apparition that Eleanor had described manifested before their eyes. The spectral figure's mournful gaze met Samantha's, and its voice, dripping with despair, spoke. "You should have left when you had the chance. terrified. Samantha and Professor Ashcroft fled the apartment, their investigation yielding no answers, but deepening the mystery. Samantha's time in apartment 7 was coming to an end. She couldn't bear the relentless horrors any longer, and moved out, leaving behind the haunting memories that had scarred her. The apartment remained vacant, a place where the line between the living and the dead blurred. Over the years, apartment 7 continued to change tenants, each falling victim to the malevolent force within. It stood as a grim reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath its walls, a malevolence that refused to be silenced. The apartment became a chilling legend, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead dissolved, leaving all who dared to enter with a sense of dread that would linger for generations to come. And so, the story of apartment 7, with its sinister whispers and spectral apparitions, became a true horror tale, an enigma that would never be solved, a haunting that could not be banished.